Welcome in, everyone, to episode 22 of our recap and breakdown of Critical Role. I'm Robbie Landis. With me, of course, as always, is Apple.
Hi.
In this episode, we get a perfect mix of lore, stealth, and both haunting and moving character moments. From a whimsical cold open in the Golden Orchard to a brutal sewer takedown, this episode highlights Azune's magical might, Hal's trepidation, and Murray's relationship to Demidus, added major questions about the Tachonis and the Sundered houses as a whole, and a massive Bolaire reveal. There's a lot to unpack, so let's get started with the episode breakdown. So the cold open. I've started to really ask myself every time these cold opens start now, why this moment specifically? What about this moment is going to help to inform us either about what we're about to see or just about the story so far? First thing, tonally, way different than what we're about to see with the rest of the episode.
It was a good way to start.
Yeah, it was really cute. Just, Occtis was like 8 years old. I think this was the year 59. So the rebellion, Falcon's rebellion, had just ended. Even the closing of the doors to Fairy won't happen for another 4 years. Thiazi's just been brought back from losing the Falcon's rebellion, is going to be put on trial, but it's like the scene isn't even about him. It's about Occtis and Thimble meeting for the first time.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people felt the same. We missed Laura Bailey.
Oh my gosh, yes. Really,
we missed her as Thimble.
I don't think we've got to see anything Thimble related since the first cold open after leaving the soldiers' table when it was her and Tayor, right?
Yep, and she's deciding to go back to the Golden Orchard.
Well, because she was a prisoner of war as well. In the scene, they even mention that his fairy has gotten out, and she finds Ephraim throwing rocks at Occtis's head. He's basically been told to like stay outside in hopes that something about fairy might awaken his sorceress magic or something. His dad being the usual
putting pressure on him.
Yeah.
I think it's a good note that Thimble looks like she's 10. So this is a very young Thimble, Kid Thimble and Kid Occtis interacting with each other, which was so funny and lighthearted and just beautiful.
But also
there's so many good Laura quotes.
Yeah, and also kind of scary when you think about that, because she was in the war as
a child.
Well, she said she looks 10 as far as like a fairy goes. I guess we don't. Again,
she definitely acted like she was.
I mean, to be fair, that's also sort of like a fairy thing, because even now she acts pretty immature at times. I know that we've sort of posed the question of like when that flower opened and she was given to Thiazi, was that the moment she was born or just how she was like gifted? Don't know how old she actually really was, but regardless, yeah, she was out fighting a war and killing Tachonis, and like she said as much when she chased Ephraim off. But
we also got to meet Twig, Thimble's brother, and like he had a quote that said, "We're kids forever and we get drunk all the time."
Yeah, I kind of wonder, another reason why they might be showing us this is if Twig is going to potentially play some sort of future role. We don't know if he's alive, if he's at the Golden Orchard, if he got into Fairy before the doors closed or not.
Yeah, Thimble mentioned she had family at some point and was also worried about them in the Golden Orchard.
So maybe they are at the Golden Orchard then.
Maybe.
Yeah. I thought the other thing, too, that I kind of took from this was the mention of the Dark Fae.
Yeah.
There was like a window that they had seen, and I just thought that it was interesting with all of the predictions that we had that what's under this or what's in the sewer may be Fae related, that it was an interesting time to drop and kind of acknowledge that, yes, there is a darker Fae faction. I also really enjoyed that just at like the very end of this, Thiazi sort of coming in to the scene and just getting more of that interaction between Thimble and Thiazi. You know, we've seen the heartbreak that Thimble has suffered at his loss, but she feels the most like herself and just the most alive and vibrant that character is when she's with Thiazi. Like, it's just a really nice sort of intersection. Like, you can feel the love between them, right? Like, the way that they are bonded to one another. She once, I think, described them as partners. And I really feel with the way that Laura and Brennan play the two of them together feels like they're joined at the hip.
Yeah, it's adorable. He's just like there's illusion of him in handcuffs going to go to trial, but he escaped, or he realized that they're gonna figure it out because he kept like scratching his head, and but his hands were in cuffs. But when he would scratch his head, the cuff disappeared, and I thought that was so funny, and the way that Thimble was like, the way that Araness was looking at you and like kind of
Mm-hmm.
making fun of Thiazi, and that was hilarious, and it showed a lot about their relationship.
And we also kind of got confirmation. I feel like we might have gotten this in earlier episodes as well, but like the reason that he was allowed to go free after this rebellion was because they were fighting as mercenaries in the
Yes.
rebellion. And so basically, I think it was House Einfasen had said we can't try them for the crimes that they've committed because they were just mercenaries, and then doing so we would have to try so many others as well, and it
Yes.
would be unwieldy.
I think it's worth noting that the Tachonis were very much ready to put Thiazi down and out.
Yeah,
So
it
they've always been on him since like day one, it seems.
I wonder if there's a reason for that beyond the Falconers' rebellion, because they
Yeah.
even fought in the War of Axe and Vine as well. And so I wonder how far back the feud or the hatred that Primus has for Thiazi specifically goes, and if and when that might be revealed. Now, before we move on to the Schemers' first combat proper, do want to urge everyone, if you're enjoying our content, if you've gotten this far, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button, the like button, and comment down below throughout the video. Any questions you have, any answers you have for questions that we pose, or any theories that you may have to add on to what we have, please comment. We love reading them, we love responding to them, and we will get around to responding to all of them. But without further ado, let's jump into the Schemers combat. Now, we've started holding pre-shows each Thursday before the stream starts, and we had held a poll during the last one about who people thought was more likely to die, to go down. Murray won with over 50% of the votes. Hal and Azune were pretty close to tied, 18, 20%, and nobody voted for Bolaire, which is
Yeah.
interesting when we get to the end. Just in case for some reason you're watching this and you haven't actually watched the episode yet.
Spoilers. Big
But
spoilers.
this went so great. This was really, I think, what a Schemer's combat should have looked like.
Yes. I don't know how if you watched the cold open, but in that Luis is like, I've been in parties where people just rush in, and I know I've been in parties where people just rush in, but this is one where they held back and they had real intention behind each move, and it was smart and it was calculated, just like the people in this
Yeah.
party. And they were able to hit hard and hit smart, and
We
it was so entertaining to watch.
we should have expected it. Like
We
when,
should have,
when they
yeah.
started out with just that one guy who had sort of noticed Bolaire and came rushing down,
Yeah.
and Luis did it again, nat 20.
You can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah.
And the way that they kind of all worked together to, or at least Bolaire and Azune worked together to take that guy out so silently and so swiftly, and then proceeded to basically just sort of watch and subtly, use their magics and their talents to get the Crowkeeper, the new leader, to fight this Fae, this Laomi. And the fight didn't even properly start until the leader was dead. A lot of the Crowkeepers were dead.
Yeah.
Laomi was bloodied. And before we even get to, gosh, there's so much that happened in between there. I think the first thing that jumped out to me was there's a switch that got flipped in Azune when he killed that first guy, and he counted and said that's one. I was like, Azune, I'm sorry, what? Who are you?
Yeah. He seems like such a very in tune with his emotions type character.
Mm-hmm.
But then to go into battle mode and be like, hit this guy with his hammer who's being held by Bolaire or silenced by Bolaire, and then instantly his heart stopped.
And he's like, I
And then
want
when he
to feel it.
puts his hand on his chest to feel that he has no
Yes.
heartbeats, it's like, who are you?
There's another moment near the end, you know, once everything has finished up, where I
Yeah.
really kind of keyed into it, because what's happening, like, you know, with Demidus and stuff, he mentioned sort of how that's making him feel and how it takes him back to, you know, being a young man in war. And I'm like,
Yeah.
man, Azune has two modes. He is a deadly, proficient soldier who is good at what he does, or he's that
That's what he was
lost
trained
yeah,
to.
or he's that lost kid again. And like there's no in between. That's why he oh man, think back to the overture when he was in the hallway, or sorry, when he was in the alleyway with Murray. And
Yeah.
he mentions like how he's always going to make himself useful, and how, you know, we mentioned how he feels like he has this like always be doing something sort of mode. I feel like
Yeah.
if he's not focused on doing a job or a task, he reverts back to that lost little boy.
Trauma.
Oh, it's so sad. So sad.
It is, but Azune is quickly becoming one of my favorite characters because he has this depth to him that we just weren't getting, but now we're getting so much of. It's crazy. Like, Luis is doing such a good job with him.
Now there was something that was said by Laomi, by this fey mold entity. It was called a mold spirit of like rot and refuse and stuff. When they thought that they were chasing like guards that had discovered them, Laomi had said something along the lines, or like had mentioned like searching for her. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
You didn't happen to like write down the exact line. I just
I
remembered
did
the
not.
searching for her. I don't think there's a whole lot we're going to be able to extract from that, but it was something that sort of stood out to me, and that I think we should just sort of hold on to going forward.
I thought this was referencing a Tachonis family member because the Tachonis are the ones really looking for Demidus. They paid this bounty for him, but maybe there's even a bigger reward.
But why
For
a
the
her?
Tachonis.
Because Demidus is a him.
Demidus is a him. I mean, her in regards to not Ophelia. Who is the other Tachonis? John. It starts with a J.
I think I know the ones you're talking
Jonas.
about, but I don't know why Laomi would be speaking of that person. So here's my loose theory. Someone had mentioned in one of our comments, had brought our attention back to that feeling that Bolaire got when he went to the Hallowed Round about something underneath the city. I don't think Laomi was it, because I feel like if Laomi was that, Brennan would have connected back to that, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something else down here. Laomi would know about that. So maybe this was more of like we need to hurry up and get this deal over with. It's bad enough that like her, whatever it might be, could be searching or looking for me, for us, for, I don't know. Comments, let us know if, you know, what that line was, or if there's any theories or connections that you may have to that.
Looking for her.
Oh.
It makes me think, maybe could it be Thimble? Very, very loose theory.
I don't know. But this combat goes on. You know, like we mentioned, they basically fight till Zoggy, the Crow Keeper leader, is gone. You know, at some point, like Laomi just moves through her and just bones clatter behind them. And
that was brutal.
Before that, even the move where like Brennan described the guy's skull as being filled with refuse. Oh, yes. Brennan, calm down. But they were able to get Demidus out, right? Like as the fighting was happening, Hal like sneaks in there and takes Demidus and gets him back, and then Demidus, natural one.
Demidus.
Both. I love him.
Demidus, looks at you, Murray, and goes, or looks at Hal jumping through, and goes, Professor Magnuson! Oh, you showed up! Oh, Bolaire, you showed up!
Shut up, you know.
Wait. Oh, sorry. I don't know who you are. And you see that, Demidus goes, monster or these guys, and starts to summon some magic into his fingers.
Those guys, we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Azune, as these rogues surround you, looking at their inability to harm you in any meaningful way. You gleam with light, and you see Demidus looks over and goes, "Wow, beautiful." And behind you, you see a 12-foot tall knight made of light erupts and says, "Brother, I have arrived to aid you. I am also a handsome knight and 100% real."
Oh my goodness.
I just look at Demidus and go, "We're gonna have to talk about reading the room."
I'm helping.
We had a video where we picked our favorite NPCs and made like a team up. I want to redo that because Demidus is now my #1 pick.
Incredible performances by Luis, like we said before. But I think that the way that he puts... Liam is also really, really good at this. I mean, they all are, but Liam and Azune stand out to me in particular. The way that they describe every action they do, even if it's just a regular attack, right? Like, I've played with so many people who, if they play like warriors or barbarians, it's just, dice roll, this is my attack. Oh, it missed or it hit. Cool. And then they're just done, and they're like, that's it. Then they just pass off their turn. Like, that's fine and stuff. But to see the level or the lengths that some players go through to take that time to really describe and put into it, oh, he did an amazing job with it.
I loved how Liam, he very much was trying to keep up with and let us know how Hal was feeling in the moment.
Yes.
Having to, because like it's been a long time since I've killed somebody and have done this, and he also was taking that time to let us know how Hal had to basically pick up. Even I think Laomi, somebody said this, like you picked up his sword, like you picked up the Aussie's mantle.
Yeah.
And Hal had to digest that and let us know what Hal was thinking.
Well, and this is why that's so important as well, because like I feel bad sometimes as a DM in certain combat situations where, if somebody's down or, maybe bad rolls happen or things that they wanted to try to do don't quite work out, and so maybe they spend like a turn or two where they don't get to do a lot, right?
Yeah.
Hal's first few turns was just movement. He didn't cast a spell until he'd put that healing word into Demidus, yet his turns were just as interesting as everyone else's because he's taking the time to put us in the headspace of Hal. And like, I'll always try to give players who didn't really get to do a whole lot like prompts or like ask them questions about their feelings, and sometimes don't really get a whole lot back, and then you can just tell that the player looks frustrated because like, oh, I didn't get to do anything. But like, there are ways, like combat is... This game is about a story, and combat can be more than just rolling your dice to do damage. And and those two, players in particular are really, really great examples of that.
I'll definitely remember that myself the next time I'm in a campaign.
Yeah, well, because like, another thing that I think where it happens the most is when a player tries to do a thing that's going to be really, really cool, but they miss. Or, something saves on their thing. And so then, frustrated, it's just like, all right, well, that's the end of my turn. Why did you miss? You're good at what you do. Why did you miss? Take time to think about that, right? Because it's not just that you were bad in the moment. Is there something within that you're struggling with that's causing you to lose that focus? Like, really think about that. And that can be just as challenging as moments with, real trauma and real dramatic stakes in it.
Yeah, this was a fun battle. Not just because how like they were embodying their characters so purely, but then Brennan, I wonder if Brennan got inspired or what, or Demidus was always this person in his mind. But the way that he played Demidus was also very unique, because even though Demidus wasn't the best at his roles, he had a very satisfying gameplay.
Yeah.
And the way he was casting, like, he's very theatrical. So, of course, all of his moves are very flashy and theatrical, and that kind of gives them away. And then all the characters have a chance to be like, Demidus, why?
And the way that started when he first woke up, and then Azune rolled that luck check to see if the other soldiers, or sorry, the other crow keepers had came back yet. You know, he rolled a natural 1, and Brennan was like,
Here's the thing. On a nat 1, I have to fuck you guys.
Yes. Yep.
So,
and I think it would have been really easy from there on out for Demidus to have just been a hindrance. But it's been established that Demidus is good at what he does, and he's, you know, survived this long, even with some, you know, bad choices and bad deals that he's made.
Yeah.
That maybe not in every moment everything that he does is great, but he's still good at what he does. And Brennan did a really good job of walking that line. And I think one of my favorite moments, Bolaire for me, Azune aside, stole this show quite a bit. But I thought that the way that he dealt with and sent Laomi away. Laomi was obviously so strong. If they would have been hit by like that big sort of goop attack, that if someone fails that saving throw, I don't think they make it. But allowing Bolaire to have that moment where the mask does what it did, and even Laomi got afraid enough to peace out completely, giving your players the chance to truly embody the themes and like the fantasy and like those grand visions of how we view our characters is so important. Mechanics be damned. Like, I don't know how close they were to death.
Yeah.
I know that sometimes I get put into moments where like the battle hasn't been going or being maybe as challenging as I think it is, or maybe I haven't gotten to the point where I get to use like the sort of cool thing, and I just want to do it so bad, but the players have this great idea, and it's like, man, you got to give it to them. Like throw away whatever prep you have and like let those players have moments like that, because that was
Let them
so
shine.
good.
Let them shine, even if it's a bad if it's a bad roll, they can still shine, like Demidus does. And Murray.
I don't think, did anybody take damage? And well, then we kind of have like the aftermath of like, you know, more of the crow keeper, you know, those crow keepers showing up and them kind of finishing everybody off. But did anybody take any damage during that? I don't think they did. Because Azune has that moment.
That is a hit on a natural 19 on the die.
Reaction, I cast shield.
Your armor is 25?
My armor is 25 now.
Well, these guys don't know they're in a game of D&D, but on an intuitive level, they know what it means to miss on a 19. Meaning like, to hit this guy, it takes a fucking miracle, right? I can only hit on a crit.
My god.
Their attack bonus is not high enough for a 25 armor class to be anything other than the stuff of legends, right? So
I've been waiting for this moment.
Just clang, 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 hitting the armor, boom, shield up, warhammer up. They all take swings with advantage and have nothing to write home about.
That was awesome.
That was such a great one. Yeah. And
that's something you don't always get to feel.
But I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in a moment where like someone in your party rolls like an 18 or a 19 on the dice, and then the DM's like, no, that doesn't hit, and you're like, oh, we're in danger.
Yeah, we're fucked.
That's what those guys felt trying to hit this guy from the Revolutionary Guard. Mm-hmm. So they mop those up pretty quickly, and then so we get to the point where now we get to, you know, talk a little bit more with Demidus. We get to explore the space, and I have a few questions. So the first question is, as we get to sort of learn more about how Demidus ended up in this whole thing, was actually through the Pentevral. Dean Cora recommended him to somebody who then offered him this job. Now, before we talk about what Marisha's read later, which was spot on, it's hard to refute, do you think if the Dean didn't know where she was sending Demidus, do you think that this information could have persuaded her to maybe join the cause?
You want to believe,
don't you?
So.
You want to believe.
I want to believe Dean Cora is a good person, but Murray mentions that Dean Cora was saying a lot of false things about Demidus and his character. Mm-hmm. things that didn't match up, and Murray was like, "This doesn't make sense," and Dean Cora like discouraged
Yeah.
her from recruiting Demidus, or even looking for him, or even looking at his resume in this paperwork. Dean Cora is bought and sold, and she's bought and sold by the Tachonis.
The nail that put it in for me, because even those ideas of, like, writing him off and all these, negative bad things about him,
Yeah.
because we don't know how personally she really knows Demidus. So those things could have just been like a personal bias sort of thing. But when Murray pointed out that, like, hey, you sent this kid off to do a job somewhere, and then he doesn't show up, and you don't think to ask the person you sent him to or the Tachonis, like, you don't think to ask any of them any questions. Your first thought just goes to, oh, he must have had a rough night and then decided not to come in. That does not look
Red
great.
flag.
Yeah.
Red flag went up because Demidus even says that Dean Cora helped, like, basically introduced him to Trimus, or Tremus, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Who was like putting this whole fiasco with the Royce family and the Palazzao together. So she knew who the connection was, but she did not specify. So because she left that detail out, she played dumb and said all these lies. So it's
what did
Dean Cora sketchy.
Yeah, what did you make of that whole scene that Demidus oversaw at Palazzo Davinos?
Oh my gosh, it's such a coincidence. He got lucky that he decided to have lunch in a closet.
Sure.
And then overheard this conversation, because I think he mentions he didn't think anything much of it.
Yeah.
But then red flags started appearing, and he started thinking back and was like, oh, I am in it. And that scene that played out raised a lot of questions.
Yeah, so obviously Demidus was a loose end. We can see why that
Of course.
is.
Yeah.
But even Knight of Ceramai, who is a vassal house of Tachonis, a loyal soldier, when she's told, you're a loose end too, like, she doesn't run or anything. She accepts her fate. And just, I don't know how Brennan continues to do it. We know the Tachonis are bad people. We know they are evil to the bone, and yet he still finds new ways outside of just, like, straight brutality to show us the depths of their, like, remorselessness. Oh, I can't even put it into words, where she's like, and so are you, and Demidus is like, just the way that she touched her face, I knew it was bad. And she mentions the scar.
Yeah, they're going to give you the scar for this.
Do you think that that's the mark that they put on people when they die so that they can take their souls, like they did to Tertia when that hand came down and how it tried to take Pascard?
That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
And then they do mention Ophelia and Trimus mention that Lord Ethrend showed up.
And that's when they had mentioned, is he going to visit King Gus? And they laugh about it because they're going to try to kill King Gus. So here's my question. We know that all of the houses kind of have sort of their own agenda, right? At what level do you think those agendas sort of divide? Because it's clear that Tachonis, I don't think, cares about anybody. Like, they just care about themselves, because had the whole Tertia thing worked, they would have the only nuke in Ahriman that they could control. They would have been gods and kings, right?
Yeah.
They're obviously not cluing in a lot of the other houses on what they're doing. So does that mean that, like with the King Gus stuff, it was the Revolutionary Council that called him? Is anyone else potentially in on the plot, whatever plot is they have going towards King Gus? The Halavars probably, because they have the Candescent Creed stuff going on over in Timony, right? I just wonder where the house's agendas start to diverge and at what level.
It's making me think back to the card that was shown of, like, two houses, like...
Oh, yeah, the golden mask and, like, the ruby mask. Somebody had pointed out that red is one of the Loy colors. But if it was... Because I think we equated, like, blood to death, right? So maybe it's, like, the Halavars and the Tachonis, potentially turn against each other in some way. I don't know. I thought it was really cool the way that Azune also had suggested that maybe they give Demidus to King Gus to take back
Yeah,
with him.
immediately.
I think that
Immediately
would be cool
trusted.
too.
I
Do
think
you,
it'd be cool as well, but we don't know for sure what King Gus's role in this is.
I do think that he's trustworthy, though. Like ultimately,
Yeah.
like whether or not his
They
goals
would have
will.
fun
Yeah,
together.
well, like whether or not his goals align with the schemers long term
Uh-huh.
is questionable. But I think that overall, based on his answer to Bolaire, that King Gus will ultimately want what is best for like the common people.
I thought it was very cute at the end of this discussion that uh, Demidus to Azune was like, Lieutenant, I'd like to lodge a complaint against House Tachonis.
They didn't pay me my
Yeah,
gold.
they didn't give me my gold.
Another important moment, and I think there were several of these between Murray and Demidus, Murray and Thiazi, Murray and Azune. We got a deeper look at Murray in regards to sort of her relationships and her feelings towards some of these other characters, and I thought that it was really touching after all of the the insults and the way that she talks about Demidus. Well, obviously recognizing that he's good at what he does, she still sees a young hotshot, right? Who sort of doesn't really think about the consequences. But the moment that they share when he starts to sort of break down, I thought was really, really touching and shows how much, she really cares about the people as well, why she's at a table like this.
And she doesn't know. She hugs Demidus, but she does know it's not an intimate
Yeah.
hug. It's comforting a student.
And then she starts to think about the last thing that Thiazi said. His technically like last words were about her to help Murray. Because I think that because even though she's a grown adult and she, has the wherewithal to know that the way that people treat you aren't necessarily indicative of who you are as a person, but being in the Pentevel for as long as she has and being looked down upon by the sorcerers of this city, and even when it comes, like even Tall Barrel, even though they're friends and Tall Barrel looks out for her, even kind of tells her, like, you gotta watch what you say and, like, watch what you do, even if they don't mean it in a roundabout way. It's still just kind of reminding you of like where you come from and how you're not one of them.
Yeah, it's like saying you're too much.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
And
well,
so
accept me. And I think that's a great thing about Murray, is that Murray is like, this is who I am.
But it's hard to argue sometimes with the perception that people don't like who I am, even if I'm proud of it. And so there's obviously a part of her that probably believes that she's not like a good person, and to know that Thiazi, this hero to everyone, believed in her enough that his last words were help Murray.
Yeah.
I think that was just a good moment to kind of realize that someone wasn't just your friend, but they really believed in you. Probably something that she doesn't get to hear a lot.
He trusted her to kind of carry out what his own beliefs were in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely see that because Murray's asking all the questions I think Thiazi would also be asking or has been asking.
And then I also thought, a similar moment between her and Azune that I thought could have stopped right before Azune said,
"You're a good egg."
Thank you, that means a lot. I will kill somebody for you.
Same for you, my friend.
I'm like, y'all. I mean, I get it, but I don't know.
You're just that close?
I guess. Oh, I don't know. That even could have put me a little on edge. Like, all right, guys, chill.
I was like, can we explore this more? They definitely have a bond and a trust in each other. We got that from the alleyway scene, where he expressed to her he might have to do something, and he wants her to be prepared for it. So he has this protection over her. But I was like, can we like explore this some more?
Well, speaking of exploration, they also found, like, Bolaire found a little bit of money, but then they found, like, what I think Bolaire was hoping they would have there, which is, like, this big haul. This was, like Laomi's, like, hoard of treasure.
Yeah, there were gems. There was gold, the blank spell scrolls.
I think they were spell books, like spell journals, like what a wizard would use to like write their spells in, which
They were
obviously,
really excited
yeah.
about that, and I was confused.
So yeah, Murray in particular was like knew that they had hit the gold mine, because in order to make your spell book work, like it's magical, right? So in order for your magic to work, you can't just grab any notebook and like write stuff down in there. You need like special enchanted vellum and like special enchanted inks, and those are expensive. Now I forget exactly what like the prices are, but I want to say that it's something like, if you, let's say that you're a wizard and you want to learn a level 5 spell, for each level of the spell, you have to spend an hour and like 100 gold per level to copy that into your spell book. So a level 5 spell would be like 500 gold, 5 hours. So imagine how much ink and paper you're going through. So that's a pretty big haul. And when you even think about,
find 40 of them.
Yes. So even think about how big a deal it was learning that those magical glyphs that Oris Blade and his the House and Hammer, right? They had a whole like cart of those glyphs that were stolen. Like, magic stuff is a big deal, and especially in a town that is cracking down on magical use. Imagine if that contraband, essentially unregistered, or maybe, I don't know who it might be registered to, I don't know if they can find that out, but imagine if that shows up somewhere, it could be used to further implicate or frame people for something as well. So the final sort of big scene here, revelation here, was between Hal and Bolaire. And Hal kind of mentions how, since learning about Bolaire's sort of true self, he's sort of kept him at arm's length, but there's a moment where after all of this, after having taken another life, he kind of collapses onto him, and Bolaire basically offers, because they kept one crow keeper alive to question, that like, there's a thing I need to do, and I think I owe it to you to offer this to you first to see something in me. Now, I want you to note really quick something that happened between them, because when they get to his request, Hal doesn't flinch or question doing it, and given how Hal is as a person, I would have thought there would be more of a protest.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I thought about it afterwards that there was. But it happened so quickly that I think a lot of people miss it.
I haven't taken a man's life in almost 30 years.
I cannot relate. I haven't been in this situation in many years. It hasn't felt like war in many years. Just survival. This is war.
That was the conversation that convinced Hal to not flinch at what comes next, which is Bolaire basically saying, I need you to kill this body, and then put the mask on that one.
We've been talking about this for such a long time. Would a party member put Bolaire on somebody?
Yeah.
And they did. And I
what
was
are the
like,
rules?
whoa, I didn't see this happening.
Well, because it also now establishes that if Bolaire dies, so long as they can recover the mask, or even if they can't recover the mask and like the bad guys get it, if one of them look too closely, Bolaire's back, baby.
Yeah, when Hal was like looking on the other side of the mask and through the holes,
I can't believe
and looking at the
he was that
details.
close.
Yeah, looking in the details in the eye thing, because Bolaire did not say, don't put me on your fate. He didn't really exactly, I don't think he explicitly said what would happen. He's just like, just make sure you put me on this guy.
I guess so. Well, but Bolaire can also choose to take himself off, right? Because remember back when in that flashback we got, they basically, said like, let us talk to. So even if Hal had put him on, Bolaire would probably take himself back off, and you can wear him bits at a time without dying or whatever. But I'm sure the experience would not have been.
I thought it was like they are dead.
No. Yeah, because back in that cold open, the way that those soldiers talk, it seems like they basically, like, for like a day at a time, maybe pass the mask around and take turns sort of bearing that weight. But ultimately, Bolaire has to choose to take it off and has to choose to feed and to water. So if he goes on someone, he can always take himself back off.
So freaky.
It was freaky because it made me also kind of realize, like, I don't know if I'd be able to do. Well, I mean, I guess it happens. They record far enough in advance. I don't know that I would be able to say I won't watch other people's episodes, because Hal didn't know as he was looking in there, like, what would happen. But ultimately, he does put it on that other guy's face, and God, Taliesin, you're so creepy.
I love him.
It's great. He's
my kind of people for sure.
Taliesin plays a lot of really, really great characters. You know, I wasn't very keen on Caduceus when he first joined in the Mighty Nine, but he's a great character. Percy is like one of my all-time faves, but like every time he comes up with a new character, like, man, it slaps. Well, all right, that's going to be it for this episode. So as always, we want to hear your questions. We want to hear your theories. If you have any answers to some of the questions that we posed or alternate theories or interpretations, please put them down in the comments and let us know. And remember that you can join us an hour before the episode starts on our YouTube channel here, so make sure you hit that subscribe button to come back and chat with us. We're here for an hour beforehand, just talking it up with everybody, and we'd love to have you in chat as well. So with that being said, I'm Robbie Landis, with me Apple, and remember to keep on cooking.
Bye.